Maotholobi 1838 Tasachat Imogida Kanpaski Inkabakahanat Sidin Pachidam Maofacha John Samon Abonaiji Sikutos Momen Ihewa Inharijiska Momen Inhubuiwa Mau Abonaiji Gorayedos Ma in Hubuiwa Mau Abonaiji Gorayedos Ma in son Hugi Badit Ifik Nokki Takkimahidos Masidin Vachidas Seminole Gimat Kanpaski over Kise Mimi Hachi In Hazosa Momen Okijobi Akhasi Lakov Vachan Abuki Bahanat O Vachan Edimakasama Gadis Seminole Git Fikam Gagat Ma Eduboga Sawalako in Otholobi 1837 Alakan John Machakabi Edit Wagis Ma Wajina Hosli Enjoga Haya Mabagaja Sheshap Sidin Vachidan Imilaksi Jadis Mairu Kalgagit Uhagitletska Iri Makosamagat Seminole Makanverski over Abuki Bahanat Ba Imiachkamahat Ovaris Ma Idibungan Wehkit Momen Ma Pomabugida Ma Adimabugit Imidal Humgi Imunga Hanat Seminole in Mikalgit Manalastalgi Pochaja Kadit Uwakadis Momes Seminole Idiboyalgi Abalwat Manalasti Imiyaska Gida Idimochagi Mahid Uwakadis John Seminole Stalgi Bali Duchinin Momen Seminole Chokpi Duchinin Chakibukagin Pitho Adihagit Kanpaski Inkabakakadis Livingston Vachan Ma Iganolegat Man Abugagit Thasalechi Chakahanat Abiyadis Momen Seminole Abalwa Imirukalgida Madun in his sulky Mo Thirukalgit Momen Injogo Hamijalgi Family Ome Mahayagit Iski Momen Iwanwa Wana Momen Inhubuidagi Chakibat Mo Momes Ma Ibujarsit Sabuchashbidait Umadis. Unga John Imachagi that sheet ma imukida muit Umadis Masudelawa Imachagi Sisimasayed Uimats Momes Ikapalaka Ika Ulechit Imunget Moes Semalumha Chadokonap Hatki Didaf Kakosit Umadis John ma Tohoki Gibson Fort Gibson okay Istijari Imikandatska Oklahoma Thothadis Otolobi Hamgi Temihoma Hoyanusen Zachary Taylor Mapakachat John Moment Imita Boyalki ma Manajalki Silla Wolgi Kesaka Monksa Warrior Ke Hotadma Imiti Boyalki Ukijobi Akari Lakko Man Nittajaako Lakko Innittan Machada Sulkit Palatkin Idipoyadis Shesa Matpakaja Tisin Halwat Brigadier General Hayadis Moment Ohadalagin Masimanolalgi Edalwa Hukulat ma Moscow Gelgi Aba ma Imidalwalgi mo Sidin Vachida Awayida Hayakadi man Soyik Chaji Dadis Kihasi 1838 Imogidan John McConvashki Yefulkadis Imistalgit Istijadi Imikanama Idikabakagit Umichajin Seminolalgi Abalwat Nalastalgi Sinvayatka Ma Istimaskogalgi Ochagat Sakwihuyagat Avulit Masianejit Istijari Maskogi Im Ikandatska Man Adodida Ahagan Abiyadis Imi Wekit Achayitska Idalwa Mujasi Imidalwa Hukulan Inha Huedi Alakan In Kabakakadis Momen Idin Kabakakat Umichajin Ma Isti Agitajka Yikchin Idimojakadis Ma Wajina In Solidawat Ma Seminolalgi Momen Nalastalgi Sidin Pachida Hayakadid Imidi Kabakadi Umichajin Istijadi Imidalwa Ma Abuagi Hagadid Uis Moega John Ma Wajina Inyadigan Hagadid Uis After we make our way to Oklahoma's Indian Territory, John meets Kuwakuji. It means wildcat. At Deep Fork, where Chief Micanopy established a place for the Seminole families. Wildcat Kuwakuji is the son of Himatala. They know him as King Philip of the Seminoles, who escaped with John from the St. Augustine prison just before the Battle of Lake Okeechobee. John returns to Florida and again to interpret the American request for Seminoles to give up. We living in changing ways. Our ways. Our farming is very good near Deep Fork. But many Seminoles, they don't like the work John did on behalf of the U.S. government. Anger is high at the fort, with many tries to take John's life, just as Wildcat Kuwakuji feared. Many of the Seminoles and all the Black Seminoles are not safe in Oklahoma. Chief Micanopy proved John's father's will, recognizing John a free man, even as his mother was African and thought a slave. By 1846, Juana's two children, Linus and Sarah, were kidnapped, taken, and sold into slavery. John must make several trips to Washington to meet American officials, requested land and protection. In 1848, the Attorney General did not approve or granted the 286 Black Seminoles living at Fort Gibson freedom and provisions as part of the beginning agreement 10 years earlier to leave Florida. By 1849, my life and those of our children changed when we find we could be hunted and sold as slaves. Many free Negroes and Black Seminoles are snatched, taken by slave catchers, beaten, or just disappear. Micanopy has died, and John and Coacoji, Wildcat, planned an escape to Mexico. They sketched the maps from their other trips with places to camp and hide. They gathered information about what the weather's gonna do, trails, eatable plants, and where we could stop to harvest corn. They knew where the Comanches looked for Negroes whom they could deliver to resell at $50 per person. The Americans and the Seminoles, friendly to the Americans, think we are going to work the Wewoka Creek with other Negroes, Muskogos. In the spring 1849, we are planning to be in Mexico by July. Our two nations and the nation of Kickapoo peoples set out for Rio Grande River in November 1849 and made the Piedras Negras by July 12, 1850. 200 Muskogos Negroes, led by John, included our families and other warriors that had been from Florida with their relatives. Women in their long handmade calico dresses and aprons wore traditional headscarves. Men in Seminole-style leggings, breechcloths, sashes, and turbans with silver fasteners. Horses packed with loaded bags of tobacco, corn, sugar, flour, knives, weapons, ammunition, cooking, and farming tools. The Seminoles and Negroes, Muskogos, split up with planned stops and communications about what they understood. Many days there is nothing to eat. Our families crouch in canvas tents, which don't stop sleet and rain from soaking us, and the women use their bandanas to catch water to drink. As we reached the Rio Grande, women put clothes in their children's mouths so they wouldn't cry out loud, and create rafts for passing the water in the middle of the night. Many cannot swim, and some are carried away in the current. Watchers warned unfriendly American troops and slave catchers are close, but we praise and cry out with relief as we reach the other side, knowing we reached the promised land through the Tiktunga Hachi Freedom River. Mexican authorities let us stay for a short time and settle down at the headwaters of San Antonio and San Rodrigo rivers, asking the men to help the Mexican army stop the Comanche an Apache coming into Mexican territory. John Wildcat Coacoji and Kickapoo Chief Papiqua met with the authorities with Kahula and signed an agreement July 1850 that President Herrera approved October 16. Negroes, Muskogos, Seminoles, and Kickapoos received just over 26 square miles in Hacienda El Nacimiento, which the government bought from Jacobo Sanchez Navarro. He's one of the most powerful landowners in Coahuila. Same kind of plot was set aside in Durango for more Indians coming from the United States. Negroes, Muskogos settled apart from Seminoles and Kickapoos at El Morel, part of a military colony, Monclova Viejo. In 1856, a treaty was signed separating the Seminoles from the Creek Confederacy in the United States. A bad illness started happening. They called it smallpox. It was just spreading to everybody. It affected Mexican Seminoles, killing Wildcat Coacoji a year later. By 1861, our Seminole neighbors returned to the U.S., the new U.S. territory. The departure of Seminoles left Negroes, Muskogos, more for the Texas Raiders to attack them, who told Mexican officials they were set up to capture us and return us to slavery. The Mexican government made us go further from the border to Paris, Coahuila, where we were promised land the same amount as El Nacimiento. Paris is unfarmable. This removal is to satisfy the diplomatic problems, tensions at U.S. border, and Navarro claims he was not paid for the land at Nacimiento. The French invade Paris too, but John did not take sides, even as the French burned Muskogos' property, land, yet spared our home and that of our son Joe Coon and David Bowlegs. They try to get approval with the Mexican government. John eventually, he fights with the Mexican army. He defeated French and President Juarez, makes John a colonel in Paris. John Kibitz, John's second in command, returns to Nacimiento, but the land has been destroyed. Uh, just tore it up from years of war and neglect. 20 years passed since we made it to Mexico for freedoms. The American Civil War is over, and now we decide to return to the United States as free people, free Black Seminoles. And the Army asked our men to sign up as scouts. John is the interpreter for kibbutz. And then the commanders, they approve it, the bravery of the warriors. But we are just staying on U.S. military grounds, again with no land of our own. No land of our own. There are 300 people adding families by 1873, and John makes trips yet again to Washington to get written commitment for the land that we can purchase or grant it, consistent with agreements with the Army officials. Everything was taken away from us when we left Florida. Our houses, cattle, horses, and everything we had. And the government, they agreed that they themselves said at that time to pay us for all the things we lost. This was the President Polk's time, and since that time, we have been roaming about without a home, and nothing has been done for us. And we now ask the government to give us a home for the sake of our children, that they may learn and get schooling, where we believe in God and can love each other. When I was in Washington, I was told that my people should get land if we go back in Florida. President Polk told me that we have the same rights as the Seminoles. General Jessup was at the time the commanding officer of Florida and made the treaty during that time. The pure colored Seminoles numbered 1,800, and all of them have never received a dime up to this day. I'd like to know from the general if the losses we had in Mexico, including what was stolen from us, will be paid to us by the government. The Indian agent told us in Mexico that the government would pay for it. If it is to be paid, please let us know, and we will put down everything we lost. I have the title of the land we own in Mexico with me, and please, sir, let us know if we can have it recorded here so that we cannot lose it. The land is named Nacimiento. It has a nice, clear running stream, water, and large cypress on it. General, I lately come over when my party was way back in Mexico. I want full rations for my people. General, I come here to make a new treaty and wish to ask for you to please grant, sir. I want to see all my children have their rights. In 1876, John was shot 4 times and almost died, as we all still fear for our lives. Again in Texas, John is now in his mid-60s. He decides we cannot stay in Texas anymore, but we must return to Mexico. Joe, our living son, with his family, understands that the land at Nacimiento is still contested in Mexican courts. John sets off to Mexico City to get the agreement approved, finalized, but never returns. We hear he died in a hospital of pneumonia in 1882. Joe, too, sets off for Mexico City to find out about his father, but is never seen again. My people must make very difficult decisions now without John as leader.